Hello there, this is Kush Sharma from Creative Pad Media. In this tutorial, we'll be talking about the enhance feature that you have in Fooocus AI, which is working along with Stable Diffusion. And this is a very underrated feature. Before I talk more about it, in case you don't have Fooocus on your computer, it's easy to get it inside 90 seconds. You can watch the setup video, which I have given the link to in the description. You don't have to install anything, it's completely free. And when you are on this interface, you are going to check this enhance button. Now, first of all, let's just talk about it. What does it exactly mean? Well, as the name suggests, it'll help you enhance or improve a lot of things in your photographs, like you can see in front of you. And a lot of times when it really works well, this can probably achieve what something like would take a long time in something like Photoshop. Okay. So within a few clicks, you'll be basically able to automate these enhancements. That's the keyword. Using some automated masking, it makes what we call as inpainting very easy. Inpainting is where you draw a mask and you're changing something in an image. And that becomes very easy when you use the enhance feature in Fooocus, as we are about to see. So we are going to be using 5 different images for this that you can see in front of you. The link to download these images has been given to you. And what we're going to do is just let me quickly explain all the 5 shots here. In the first shot, the first 2 shots, in fact, we'll just be using them to just learn the basics of this enhance feature. How does it work? And we'll also achieve something at the same time. For example, in this first shot, we'll just try to remove the wrinkles in the backdrop and turn it into something more seamless, so it looks more professional. Then in this shot, we'll start to understand how the different automated masking tools work, which go very well with the enhance feature that you're going to learn about. Then we're going to basically change a lot of things in this image, completely change it, like the background, the clothes and all. And this is the time you'll start to really understand its true potential, this feature. We also have this particular image where we'll be doing things like a high-end skin retouch, like making the skin smoother, removing the blemishes, and all that can be done with pretty much a single click. And this last image, I haven't practiced. So the first 4 images, I know what I'm doing, but with tools like this, I also just sometimes like to have one image where I'm just directly showing you on the spot what is happening. So we will be able to also get a real life perspective on how reliable this tool is. All right, so let's get started with the first image that I had shown you. And how this tool works is you'll obviously have to click enhance. But before that, I just want to talk about something. So let me just hit this option that says input image. Okay, this will also have to be checked, by the way. And let me just show you what is happening here. So let's say I upload that first image here. And remember, we are looking to remove the wrinkles here. So how would we do that just using the normal inpainting, which we are used to? Well, we get the inpainting brush and we can try to be very careful and avoid her and select the background. And then we can type in the prompt something like a yellow seamless paper backdrop, and hopefully it should work. But first of all, obviously it's tough to generate a mask, draw a mask manually like this, but that's not such a big problem because right now, let me just undo this. If we enable the advanced masking features, we do get ways of automating this. So either we can create a mask of this background on our own. That means all the white painted in an image where it's just this background is white and she is completely black. That would represent a good mask for this. But Fooocus also has some automated ways of doing this. So for example, they have some mask generation models here. So if I open up this drop-down menu, this is going to be important in relation to the enhance feature that we'll soon be seeing. So they have a lot of ways by which, let's say, you can use, for example, the U2Net human segmenting mask, by which it'll try to pick out this person and all these things. Now, there are a lot of different models here. To be frank, only 2 of them are really important. Okay, one is this ISNet general use model. And let me just show you what this does. If you select this, and if I hit generate mask from image, this is probably one of the best models to pick out the subject. So you're going to get a mask image where this person has been painted white and the background in this case is black. And usually it does a good job. So let's just wait for this. You can see now. You can see it does a pretty good job. And if, let's say, in our case, we'll soon be changing the background, right? So if you think of it, we need the opposite. We need this white and this black. That's not a problem. That can be done with a single click, because most of the times you're going to get this option which says invert mask while generating. I'll just have to check this. This will be important because when we do start using the enhance feature, there also, when we're selecting the model which is going to select or generate the mask, we will have this option. Okay, so with this, we can either work on the background or on the subject. So that's one thing. Another very important model here is this last one, which says SAM. This stands for Segment Anything Model. And as the name suggests, the moment I select this, you do get some additional things here, okay? So you get something called as a detection prompt. We'll soon be seeing in the next image what this means, but basically I can actually type in something here, okay? And it's gonna detect that and create a mask of its own. For example, I can type in red dress. So we're expecting then it'll create only the mask for this red dress, okay? So you can be very specific with this model. That's why it's called Segment Anything Model, okay? They give you some examples also, like the face, the eye, you can do all that, okay? So we'll of course be using this because this works very well with the enhance feature. But right now, just to keep things simple, we are going to stick to just for this first edit, the ISNet model here. But we don't want to do it from here because this video is about using enhance, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go first of all once you do check this input image, you get this tab which says enhance, okay? So the first thing that you need to do is you need to upload this very image right here. So let's do that. So that is the first requirement done. Then you need to make sure this enhance tab is checked. If it's not, okay, then can you see that it just got shrunk because all those options went away. So if I just, after uploading the image on the tab, if I just enable this option, in this very tab, you get these options here, okay? So what is happening here? The first, in these options, you get a couple of tabs. The first tab says upscale or variation. Then you have number 1, number 2, number 3, okay? Here's the thing. We can now start the process of doing a lot of things. One thing that we can do is we can upscale this image. So for example, we can upscale it to twice its size, 1.5 times its size, and all these things. So if I was to select, for example, this option and hit generate right now, it will just increase the resolution of this image. That's one thing, okay? But we can add multiple steps to the same generation. For example, if you go on to number 1 right now, and if I just click on enable, here I can actually do the inpainting that we were just seeing before using one of those automated masks, okay? For example, let's say right now, I want to select, if I just go down here under detection, if I select, remember for this first image, we're using not the SAM model that is selected by default because that works very well with enhance, but we'll start to see that from the next image onwards, okay? Right now under detection, I can actually change the model also. So let's say I go for, instead of SAM model, I go for that ISNet generally used model because here we just need to select the background. Now, the moment I do that, then this is selected, then we can open up. There's an option for changing the properties of how the inpainting will also work. So if I open this up, okay, we get a lot of things like how aggressive do you want the inpainting to be? Okay, so how aggressive should it be in this case when it finally generates the new background? Think of it like this. So by default, this is set to 1, okay? You can change the method and all, which also we'll be seeing later. Right now, we can pretty much leave everything on the default, okay? Just one very important option here. Remember, I just talked about that in this case, we are working on the background. By default, the ISNet selects the person. So we just need to hit this option that says invert mask. So now we know that, yes, it's ultimately going to select the background and whatever we type in this prompt here. So anytime you use this enhance feature, the first thing that you're going to see is after you've clicked enable, enhancement positive prompt. That means it's trying to ask you what is it that you are trying to generate on the mask that has been built. So think of it like this. We selected the way the mask has been built and somewhere in the background, this mask is already there. This since we inverted it, this part is white now, the background. Now we just need to write in here, what do we need to do to that background? Okay, so here we can type in yellow seamless, okay, seamless paper backdrop. And that's it. So it's going to turn that into a seamless paper when I hit generate. Now, remember, it starts with the upscaling process, okay? Right now, I've kept it on disabled, and I'll be talking slightly more about it. Right now, we won't be really upscaling the image and all because it just has some issues that you need to know, okay? I'll talk about this in one of the images that is coming soon. So we just right now, just to keep things simple, we just have one enhancement that we're doing. But you can do up to 3 enhancements. So maybe if I wanted to even change in the second enhancement, maybe I wanted to change the color of her dress, well, I can do it on the second one. But right now, we're not going to do it. Let's just see how well this single thing works. Finally, before I hit generate, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit advanced and make sure some basics are there, like performance set to quality, so we get the best image. One image should be fine for this. Output format, I usually like to select JPEG. And that's about it. We really don't need to do anything. Let's just hit generate now, and let's see the results here. So whenever you do hit generate, the first image that is going to show up under finished images will just be the original. It just gives that, okay? So think of it like this probably is like just doing this to analyze the image, but you're going to get the first output as just the original image. And then it's going to start basically working from this now. After this has been given, now you can actually see that it's trying to do its job. It's trying to smoothen out the wrinkles and give us a seamless paper backdrop. So let's just wait for this to complete. All right, and it has done its job. We've got the generation from this number 1 enhancement that we did. And if we just open this up, I think that looks absolutely fantastic. I have a lot of videos on my YouTube channel where I've shown something similar using the generative fill feature inside Photoshop. And there, if you've seen those videos, like you can see one of the videos which is hovering on top, there also is pretty fast. I'll leave the link to that in the description of the video also. But there, one of the major challenges we face is that around the edges, wherever generative fill is working to generate this plain background, it also distorts the subject, and then it becomes, you really need to take more steps to correct it. But here you can see with a single click, we have been able to get such a nice looking background here. You can see the shadows, the lighting, the tonal variation, everything looks pretty good. And this is where you'll understand that what basically enhances, it's a consolidated way of doing a lot of things, even though right now we just did one thing. But if right now, remember, we had one enabled, but let's just take an example. If we had this enabled and we had a model to detect the dress, and in the enhancement prompt, we had written, change the color of the dress, then right now the third image that would have been generated would have been with the new dress. So it's just with one generation, you can do all these multiple things together like we're going to do with the images that are soon going to come. Now, let's just quickly move on to the second image just to understand the SAM model function. All right, so this time we have got this particular image. Now here, let's say one of our objectives is to only select the hat and change it to another hat or of a different color, something like that. Now, the thing is you can't really use the ISNet, or you can't actually use any of these models because most of them are just going to select the whole person, or even something like the cloth segment mask will only select the clothes, okay? But if we use SAM model, we can actually use a detection prompt and say hat. And now if I just hit generate mask from image, you're going to see that it will be able to pick out the hat and create that mask. So let's wait for this. All right, you can see that it has done a pretty good job. So now you can see that you can pretty much create a mask out of anything using the SAM model. Just one important point, in case, let's say you did choose some other object and you're finding that just by looking at this, you are not happy with the mask. Like in this case, it works out to be fine. But let's say in more complex selections, you're not happy. Then one of the things that you can do is, in order to improve or rather increase the quality of the results, one of the things that you can do is if you just, with the SAM model selected, if you go over to the advanced options, you'll get this option that says SAM model. Okay, so it's just basically telling you within the model itself, you also have 3 variations. By default, this is set to VITB. B is, I think, for basic. Okay, so this is like think of it like, yeah, it's okay, it's fast, it'll create the mask faster, but maybe the quality of the mask won't be that good. Okay, if you are finding that you can use this L model, which is, I think, the large model, this also H, I think that's for huge. But I won't really recommend that you select this, okay? Because what happens is each time you select a higher model, yes, the precision of the mask is like the quality of the mask goes high, the precision is better, but then it also takes an awfully long time to create that mask, okay? So usually if it does the job, B or basic is fine, or just you can try this one, okay? So we're going to stick to this because for us, it worked out well. And yeah, so you can see that it is going to work if we directly use it with Enhance also. So you're just seeing how the models are basically working right now. Of course, when you do use this here, you don't need to go through this step, obviously. So now let's do the same thing quickly here again. I'm just going to upload this image. Again, we won't be dealing with the upscale or variation right now. So let's just leave this part, okay? Otherwise, this just becomes one of the steps also. So you can actually do 4 things, okay? But from the last image, we had this enabled, but we just need to remove things like this. So first of all, we'll select the correct detection or mask generation model, which this time is going to be SAM. Okay. We already know what will be the detection prompt here. Hat. That's how it's going to detect things. What will be the enhancement prompt? Now, let's say we are changing this to a red hat or a red cap, something like that. So let's just type in red cap. So that's what you type, whatever change you want here. If you want it to make sure something didn't come in that change, you can type it in the negative prompt here. Okay. I'm just going to leave it empty. And here also you get those options if you want to select those higher end models here. And again, under in-paint properties, remember last time from that last image, we had left this check. This time we don't need, because this time we are working on that hat. So I'm just going to go to the default, which is not change this. Okay. And that's it. We are pretty much set. We really don't need to do anything. And let's just hit generate and let's see the results this time. All right. So we've got our result, not the perfect result. You can see definitely it has added a red cap, but yeah, some artifacts have been produced here. So a couple of things. Obviously, right now to keep things fast, I have only one image being generated, but if you have some multiple variations, you'll have to wait slightly more, but then definitely one of them will give you a better result. Secondly, I just wanted to point out something. Sometimes when you change clothes or any objects like this, around the edges, if you're noticing any artifacts, that just means you need to basically increase the size of the mask a bit. Okay, it's not big enough, whatever the mask that was created. And how you can do that is, if you just go down here in the in-painting options here, okay? There's this option which says mask, erode, or dilate. So you can just increase this slightly. So what I've seen is when it comes to things like clothes, so first of all, in this image, we didn't notice that, but along the edges, if you're noticing the problem, you can keep this to like something like 2 or 3 pixels. Then it's just going to basically expand that mask. It's just going to make that white area in the mask slightly bigger. And then just think of it like this. It covers those edges well, and then you don't see the problems on the edges. So we are going to be using this feature in one of the images that is about to come. But you can see overall, this is also pretty good. Now let's move on to the next image. All right, so this time we've got this image. This time we're just starting off. So we've put this on the Enhance tab here. And again, this time we are for the first time going to do multiple things here, okay? So in number 1, first of all, let me remove the things from the last one. So we don't want to detect any sort of a hat, and neither do we want to generate a red cap, okay? Now, what is the first thing that we should do here? So let's say that we would like to change, first of all, this kind of this cardigan that she's wearing to, let's say, a blue formal blazer, something like that. And also we want to change this outdoor background to, let's say, like a pink studio shot. Okay, so like a pink wallpaper or a pink backdrop here. So let's do both these things by using 2 enhancements here. For the first one, and always make sure, okay, this is a common mistake when using this feature, this enable button is always checked. Otherwise, it won't run these things when you hit generate, okay? So let's start with the first one, detection prompt. So in the first change, what do we want to detect? It's going to be this sweater that she's wearing. So let's say we can just type in clothes, okay? That should be fine. Otherwise, you can even type in something like a sweater. But I don't even mind if it changes everything, because we're kind of replacing the whole thing with a blue blazer, okay? Then what should be the enhancement positive prompt? What are we trying to generate? A blue blazer, okay? And we don't really need to worry about the negative prompt. Then we have detection. This time, obviously, it's a manual generation. So it's going to be SAM that is selected by default. We're going to leave it at that. In Paint, again, we can just leave everything at the default. But remember, I told you, when you're doing this for clothes, usually it's a good idea to just increase this slightly and make this default mask a bit bigger so we don't suffer on the edges. Okay, and this is especially important when you're dealing with something really big like this, okay? Because the edges are a lot here, okay? Rather like as opposed to what was in the case before in the case of cap. So here, what I've just seen is something like 2 should be fine, okay? So that is our first enhancement taken care of. But right now, we're not going to hit generate. This time, we're doing 2 things. And now, for the background, the detection prompt will be, so this time, what we can do is we will not use the SAM model. Remember what selects the background? We can, ISNet is good if we simply invert it, so we can use that. So what we can do for this is, Under detection, we can change the model from SAM to ISNet. And then we only get to type in the enhancement positive prompt. So we can say pink seamless paper backdrop. Okay. And under inpaint here, we need to invert that mask. Okay. That works on the background. And also, when you're usually changing the background like this, you can definitely leave the method to the default inpainting method. But what I've seen is with backgrounds, this one sometimes works much better, which is the last option here, which is modify content, because you can actually even see that Fooocus themselves recommend this for changing the background. So I'm going to select this. And now just make sure both of them are checked. We're not upscaling and there's nothing on the third one. And I think we are all set to hit generate. So let's see the results here. And you can see our first enhancement is in effect. And I think this is starting to look really nice even before the image has finished. Let's just wait for this. All right, so our first enhancement is done. Now it's going to work on the second one, which is going to be on the background. Till the time, let's just check this out. So this was the original, and then this is the change produced. Now, you can see it's not always going to be 100%. So around the edges, sometimes it can cause some issues. For example, this extra finger has been added, but this will be like so easy to correct, using either you can go out of focus and use Photoshop for this, or within focus, you can just, use inpainting. It's just going to take one generation to get something like this corrected. But you can see when you see the quality of how well this has changed the dress, doing something like this, let's say manually, or to be frank, even using generative fill in Photoshop is not going to give you as realistic results as what you get right here with Stable Diffusion. I'm really, really impressed with this. Yeah, not 100% perfect. Does leave some artifacts, but overall pretty happy. And now you can see it's also now further working in a consolidated way on the next enhancement. So we're getting both the results together. And now if you think of it, like doing all these things in any other editing software, even using these AI features like generative fill in all in Photoshop, sometimes doesn't just give you these kind of results. And now you can see, so let's start from the original, then we changed the blazer and we changed this. Yeah, some problems in the hair here. All this can in one go be corrected using the inpainting tab. Now, I have a dedicated tutorial on how to correct fingers and hands. If you haven't watched that video, the link is on top. I'll also leave the link to that in the description of the video. You can check it out later. There I show you how to use Fooocus to quickly correct these things. So this is one of the ways by which you can use this particular tool. Now let's also see the next image. All right, this time we have got this particular image, and this time we are going to be talking about upscale or variation, and I'll tell you why I was slightly avoiding this, okay? So first of all, this time if we go over to upscale or variation, like I said, you do get different options. I'm not really going to talk about very strong and very subtle and all. This will probably require another video. In fact, the whole upscaling thing is such that it might require a dedicated video. So I will definitely make a video on that very soon. But I can, if I check this, this can be one of the enhancements. I want to increase the scale, okay? Now, under that, it shows you an option which says order of processing. So do you want to upscale before this number one enhancement starts? Or do you want to upscale it after all the enhancements are done and then it increases or scales the image, okay? Now, here's the thing. If the starting image that you have, for example, this image, if it already has good enough details that you can see and recognize, it's usually a good idea to first let it do the enhancements, and then at the end, you can just upscale it. But if you had a super low resolution image, which just didn't have enough details for these enhancements and generations to work, then obviously it's going to be a good idea to leave it at before first enhancement. Now, here's the problem with this, okay? When you do upscale an image in Fooocus, sometimes it really alters the details a lot, okay? It's not just about increasing the size or the resolution. It just produces some changes also. So just to show you that, okay, so that our other enhancements don't suffer, I'm going to leave it at after last enhancement. And that would have been correct for this image anyway, since this image has all the details and we can recognize them and see them, okay? So we're going to leave it at that, and we're going to select upscale it by 1.5 times, okay? But our first enhancement, now this is going to be more important to us. So let's say in this image, and I was particularly impressed by this, we want to just smoothen out the blemishes and the skin, something like a portrait retouch. Now, if you are into that, you must be knowing in something like Photoshop that can take a lot of time, right? So here, what we are going to do is we are going to use the SAM model for this. So that is selected from the last image, but last time we had used the detection prompt as closed. This time we're going to select skin, okay? Enhancement will be smooth skin. And we don't need any negative prompt here. Detection SAM model. Inpainting method. Now this time this is going to be important. Do not leave this at the default inpaint or outpaint method, because this time we are not generating something totally different. If you think of it, we are modifying something that is already there. So we need a slightly lesser aggressive tool. The default inpainting tool is very aggressive. It can even change the person completely. So we need something more subtle. So for that, what you need to select here is the next option, which says improve detail. So as the name suggests, we're going to select this. That basically you're going to see that what it does is it just reduces the strength of the inpainting, okay? And yeah, that's about it. We don't really need to worry about anything else. And yeah, remember from the last image, we had set this to 2. The default is 0. This time we don't need to worry about the edges. So we're just going to keep this at the default. And yeah, so this first thing is done. This time, let's use all 3 and see how it works. In the second one, what we are going to do is we are going to change the color of the lips, so make it redder. So let's say we can say, select the SAM model. And detection prompt will be lip. And I type lip because they actually say this, that use singular wherever possible. And I've just seen this slightly gives you better results. So don't write lips, just write lip, okay? Enhancement will be red lip, okay? And under inpaint method, actually I chose modify content, but I have to select, no, in this case, we're just going to let it be on inpaint or outpaint, because remember, we don't mind if it changes the lips, because we're going for completely new lips. We are not just modifying the content here, right? If you think of it, we are completely okay with it generating a lip with red lipstick. That's going to be new. So we need something aggressive for that. So we can leave it at inpaint or outpaint, the first method, which is selected by default. And we don't need to invert the mask. This is again selected from the last image because we were using the ISNet model. And yeah, that's about it. Sometimes these things can get a bit confusing. If you are working on consecutive images like I'm doing in this tutorial, sometimes you can just refresh this page, start a new session, then it just forgets everything and you can just start afresh, okay? So this is going to be the second one. Make sure this is enabled. And for the third one, we are going to change the color of the eyes here, okay? So again, we can use the SAM model for this, okay? And you can just type in detection prompt eye, remember singular. Blue eye is what we want. And in painting, again, we need aggression for this. So in paint or outpaint is fine, okay? Everything else is checked. I think we are all set for this. So let's see how well does it produce all these changes. Also remember, this time we are going to get one more at the end, which is going to be the upscale version of the final result here. So let's hit generate and let's see how this works. Right, so we've got all our variations. There was one little mistake I made, which I'm just going to be talking about. But first of all, let's just go through them. So this was the original that we had. The first enhancement that we did was the skin smoothing. And you can see here, this looks really good. But this is where I made a slight mistake. So if you notice the original and just notice this, yes, the skin looks much better, but then it has also changed some of the facial features. Now, why has this happened? Before I just talk about the other things here, the thing that I forgot was if I go over to enhancement number 1, okay, which was making the skin smooth. Remember, I told you that change the method to improve detail because it's less aggressive. It's still slightly more aggressive. So the thing that I forgot to do was you do get this in-paint denoising strength slider. Even 0.5 for such a thing is too much. It really has to be too subtle. So what I've seen here is you just need to reduce this to somewhere between 0.25 to 3. That's where it will smoothen out the skin, but will not change the facial features. So what I'll do is, once I've just gone through all these images, we'll just only do this enhancement once at around 0.25 strength, just to see this, okay? But you can see, because even at 0.5, the change is not so crazy, but it is there. But if you just look at from what it's done, I think this is still like really nice. Then the next enhancement was the change of the lips color. And you can see, so that's why we needed to be a bit aggressive, because it's basically changed the lips. And that is okay, okay? Because that doesn't really change how the image looks. But in the next one was the one for the eye. And this didn't really work that well. So you can see, first of all, it really increased the size of that eyeball. Okay, and secondly, I have no idea why it took away from the last image, because it usually just builds on. My guess is because the shape of the lips is like the eye. So maybe I'm just thinking that the SAM model also considered this as a part of the mask, and when we were trying to only make a mask for the eye, and it also probably did some change to this. That's what I'm just thinking, okay? But yeah, this one part didn't really work well. And the last part was, remember, we were upscaling the image right at the end. But like I said, upscaling, this is the last part. Yes, it has increased the resolution. Your image is going to look sharper. It's going to have a larger size. But can you see? This just doesn't upscale it. It also changes the image. That's what I was talking about. There are ways around it, okay? But we probably have to dedicate another video for that, because you do need to make a lot of changes for that. But anyway, you can see everything working in flow here. What we're going to do is, right now, I'm just going to disable 2 and 3 and also not upscale it. Okay, so just disable the upscaling. And under 1, the only change right now I'm just going to make is pulling this back to around something like even 0.26 is fine. Okay, something like that. And let's just have this one variation and just let's see the difference. All right, so we've got our result. This time, again, let's open this up. So this is the original, and if you just go on to the next one, now this time you can see there's barely any change in the shape of any facial feature, but just look at the skin. That is absolutely amazing. Something like this would, again, like it would take so long in Photoshop, right? So this is also good. Now, coming back to the last image, remember this was the one I hadn't practiced at all. This is going to be completely impromptu. So let's see how this does. And let's quickly decide what we want to do here. So let's say one of the things that we can do is we want to change this road to something like a dirt road. And since the sky looks pretty bland, let's try to make it more dramatic by adding clouds or a sunset, something like that. Okay, so let's put this image over in focus. And here under the first enhancement, we're going to say detection as ground or road, anything we can say. So I think road will be better for this. So road, and positive prompt can be dirt road. I think everything else from the last image, remember this was for the skin smoothing. So we just need to make sure this goes back to the default inpainting method. It's going to increase the strength back to 1. And then we don't need to do anything. And we're going for 2 variations. The second one is going to be for the sky. So we're going to select this. Detection prompt will be sky. And enhancement will be, let's say, clouds. And again, inpainting is fine for this. Yeah, so 2 easy enhancements for this image. Make sure the upscaling is disabled. Yes, it is. And let's hit generate and let's see the results here. All right, so we've got our results. Let's start with the original. The first thing that we did was change the road. And yeah, I think this looks pretty good, very real. And the second thing was for the sky. This, I would say, looks okay. Not that great. You can probably see that just around, especially around the edges of that rock here. This slightly is looking a bit off with this halo. Now, what you can do in order to correct this, okay, is again use something like if you go back to the second one here, which was for the sky, the mask erode or dilate feature. Now this time we would probably like to actually erode the mask, because if you think of it, you would actually like the sky mask to finish way before it touches the rock. And then maybe it'll try to generate clouds which are slightly farther away, and therefore just give a bit of room between the rocks and the sky. And basically just shrinking the mask can probably help us solve this problem. But again, this was just for a demo, and I think overall, this also worked out to be fine. So this is the enhanced feature. In case you have any questions, of course, leave it in the comments. I'll try my best to answer. And in case this video helped you out, do give it a like. And if you want to follow along all my experiments with the different AI photo editing and image generation tools out there, then make sure you subscribe, and I will see you next time.